That all leads to the six-man Hell in a Cell at Armageddon 2000 in Birmingham, Alabama. It feels like by this point you're starting to lose your enthusiasm for the gimmick. Do you have some issues going on? Because it does feel like you're written off TV. As you're announcing the six-man, Vince attempts to overrule you.
What month was this?
This would have been building towards December of 2000.
Yeah, because it was known that I'd be leaving in the beginning of December, middle of December, and I'd be out for a good period of time, like 4 months. So I did want to be home. Again, like I said at the onset, one of my regrets is that I wish I'd appreciated it more, realized it was not an opportunity that comes around every day, and that I really was on a roll. I think if I had stayed there and ridden it out, I could have been that guy for a number of years, and that it would have been a really good way, to gracefully age in the business and have left a bigger mark than I did.
But it wasn't about you losing passion for it or being tired of being on the road. It was more about, I want to spend more time with my kids.
Yeah, I want to be there for this little fellow, Mickey, and I don't regret a second of that,
Yeah.
I was home a lot. Yeah, I don't regret that.
And the storyline explanation to write you off is that Vince is trying to overrule you, but for some reason he can't, which is a little silly. And he says if anyone gets hurt at this show, you'll have to resign on Raw the night after the show. And of course, at Armageddon, Vince McMahon would drive down to the ring with a truck to attempt to dismantle the cell. You come out too, you send Vince backstage. The truck becomes a landing pad of sorts for a chokeslam off the top of the cell. The Undertaker throwing Rikishi off into a big bed of sawdust. After we've seen you fly off the cage, it feels a little silly.
Well, at the same time, it was almost like you needed
Something. Yeah.
Because, Triple H and I just had that hellacious match 8-9 months earlier. I think one of the things I did not write about was that we did a really good job of making it seem like I was being battered around emotionally and was really torn. I remember I think China got hurt, and Billy Gunn getting in my face and this is all your fault. And I think Meltzer praised it as saying Foley can act because we see these a variety of emotions. And so I thought we were telling a good story where we're taking Commissioner Foley out of his happy place and making me, putting me in a situation where I have to make decisions that I'm not comfortable making.
The night after, we see a 21-minute segment to close the show. McMahon's going to call you out with a resignation paper, ask you to sign. You're going to tease signing it. He's going to bring up your kids and that you got a newborn on the way. You're trying to decide if you should. Foley comes out and says the talent also wants you to sign, and Austin's not happy with the job you're doing, and he doesn't want you to sign. So, of course, or he wants you to sign. So, of course, Austin comes out. And Austin tells Foley not to sign, and before it's over, he gives a stunner to Regal, Patterson, and Briscoe. Foley puts the socko on Mr. McMahon, tears up the resignation papers, throws them at Vince. And the following week, it's supposed to be Kurt Angle versus Vince with you as the referee, but it never takes place. Do you remember what happened here? Vince gets him to take you down before or Vince gets the takedown on him before the turn happens on Foley. Meltzer would say it had to happen. Vince got to pin the guy who never gets pinned, Triple H, for the title. He got to beat the UFC king in an octagon, Shamrock, and he got to take down a real world champion wrestler. Angle and Vince turned on Foley, did a number on him. Foley made a comeback on both, put the socko on Vince, and then Angle stops him with a chair shot. Edge and Christian come out, do the sandwich chair shot on you, the concerto. Stephanie comes out, sides with Vince, saying the board of directors has now given total power, that Linda was unfit to be CEO. Vince then fired Foley, who was all bloody. Angle hits him with one last chair shot, and you're officially written off. But on the way out, man, what do you think? You get
pretty good way. The only thing in that angle is that I was the one who pushed for Edge and Christian to come out.
Right.
With the idea being that the crowd wouldn't know which way they were turning.
Right.
And Vince did say to me, for the record, I don't agree with you, but I'm going to let it play out. And it did not get the reaction I hoped it would. I think if Edge and Christian had run out instead of walking out slowly, it might have been different because we didn't want the crowd thinking, in retrospect, I wonder if they're going to save Mick. I think they should have been thinking, they're here to save Mick. And it would register in their mind, okay, I know they're bad guys, but they've always got around. It was kind of like a foghorn, leghorn,
Yes.
deputy, whatever the dog was, and that
Yes.
they would be at each other at loggerheads throughout the day, and then they would punch out and they'd be friends again. So I loved that about the Edge Christian Foley dynamic, but it didn't work.
Right.
It did not work, and that was the only thing. And plus, I didn't get as much blood as I would have liked to have. But all in all, I thought it was a send-off with authority. I thought it was a really good send-off, and we all thought I'd be back. Turns out, you know, I was occasionally for a cup of coffee, but that role was pretty much done once I left that building.